right, so again, I'm Agent Rodriguez with New Mexico State Police. As you know, we are here today to obtain a statement from you regarding the officer-involved shooting that occurred on August 8th, okay? Before we do start, I just have a couple of basic questions for you. And I'll start off with your full name, please.
Okay, Nolberto Dominguez, Nolberto. You may spell Dominguez. Dominguez.
Who are you employed with?
Colfax County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with Colfax County?
It'll be 6 years.
6 years. Did you work for another law enforcement agency?
Prior to that, I worked with the Raton Police Department for 11 years.
Almost done.
I wish. Not close enough.
All right, and I do have to ask, have you been given the opportunity to review your body cam footage from that incident? Okay, so today I just want you to tell me, what occurred that day, what you were doing prior to the incident, how you became directly involved, and just try to be as detailed as possible for me, okay? I won't interrupt. I'll answer any follow-up, or I'll ask any questions that I have after you've concluded your statement. If there's anything that you have learned, I know you're the lieutenant, if there's any information that has become available to you after the incident, just try to stay focused on what you knew that day, and just what you witnessed that day, okay? So whenever you're ready, you can start.
Sure. So I was on duty that day. I was listening to the radio, and I heard the call of that was coming through that they had first a couple of calls of somebody brandishing a firearm at people in Maxwell. So I heard my guys heading that way, and then I heard additional calls of other people calling saying the same thing, that this guy's running around Maxwell brandishing a firearm. So I'm in Raton, and I start moving towards Maxwell, and as I'm heading that way, Deputy Urquillo asked if I could bring the drone. So I said, sure. I was about halfway there, and then they started giving a description because they thought this guy had gone into a field. I don't know, not exactly which. There's a lot of little fields in Maxwell. So they thought he had gone in that direction. So I turned around, grabbed the drone, and I was heading back south. And I heard that he might be on the highway, possibly heading north on I-25. So I kind of stayed on there, and we had there was a description of a maroon SUV or a red pickup with a camper shell. So I did see with a possible camper shell, or I don't remember exactly. So I did see a red pickup traveling north. So I flipped around. I couldn't find a place to turn around, so it took me a bit. So I flipped around, tried to turn around and catch up to it. Sergeant Sablati, NMSP, I saw him pass me, going the opposite way. So, hey, I'm gonna head this way. Not sure if it's the vehicle, but in case it is, give me some backup. So he was starting to flip around. While in the mix of that, we heard that they possibly had seen him in Maxwell. Turns out that wasn't the truck. So once again, turned around, heading back towards Maxwell. And when I did that, radio traffic was that state police had contact with him. They had located the vehicle, and they were in pursuit, if I remember correctly. This was all relayed from from Deputy Urquillo, because we can't hear your guys' radio comms. So, and at that point I heard he was traveling on 445 going west. So he was going west, and I cut off on what's called the 3 Mile Bridge, which is mile marker 446 there in Raton on 64, because they were kind of heading that direction. So I shot down that way. As I was getting to the intersection of 64 and 445, I saw, after seeing him get out of the truck, Sergeant Sablati get out of the truck, but he pitted him. I believe it was head on. It was just a bunch of chaos. The trucks were spinning. So I saw that, and the the suspect's vehicle ended up in the ditch. So, parked my unit, got out, grabbed my rifle, and started walking towards him. And we're all giving him commands, get on the ground. He's just not paying attention, just not complete disregard. So I tried talking to him, saying, hey, we can stop this, just get on the ground, and he started talking about, what did he say? Something about you're a gang or something like that. I don't know what he was trying to get to. And this is Indian country, just not really making sense. So he kept walking. I remember telling Deputy Grosvenor, because we had traffic on both ends, told him to run down to the south side and stop traffic, because we had people kind of approaching the scene, so I didn't want anybody else to get injured. So I had him run down, stop traffic. He turned him around, came back, and around that time, Sergeant Zablati yelled, less lethal, less lethal, on my left. Came up, I believe he shot 3-4 times at the suspect. The suspect wasn't fazed. He just kept walking. You don't have to do this. He just kept repeating, not making real sense. And he continued to walk. So at one point, we're continuing to move where traffic is stopped at 64 and the Hoxie, which we call the Hoxie intersection, and 445. So Deputy Grosvenor was on the outside, furthest to my right. So I told him tase him. So he deployed his taser. Heard 2 clicks. So I believe, yes, he did deploy twice. First one didn't seem effective. The second one, the guy fell back. He started reaching for the probes, trying to pull him off, it looked like. At which point, obviously with the taser, we have a good 5 seconds to try to apprehend him. So I had my rifle slung down at that point. I had Urquillo to my right and Bakecki and Grosvenor. After myself and Officer Benway started approaching, we were going to do hands-on, try to get him. I remember hearing knife, and actually prior to that, let me step back a little. When he was walking back and forth, he raised his arms up, and you can see he had a sheath side knife on his left hip, and then I think he had a pocket knife, possibly in his right, and a sheath on his right-hand side, firearm sheath. So as we were moving in, I heard knife, and that's all I heard. I remember seeing something in his hand, shiny, and it was kind of in a opposite grip, kind of like this. Like I remember clearly seeing a silver blade. I heard knife, and I heard the shot, so I kind of scooted out of the way because I could hear the shots coming from my right. And at that point, the subject dropped the knife. I could hear the clink of the knife clearly. Dropped on the ground. We kept giving him commands. He was still moving around a little. The suspect, he was moving around with his hands. He reached for his stomach or waistband. I remember telling him, don't reach for anything, and he kind of put his arms to the side. He was kind of gurgling, he really wasn't talking. So then we got closer. At that point, everybody started first aid. Everybody was handing me their rifles, so I had like 3 rifles on me, so I couldn't obviously help. But I was doing radio comms with dispatch. It's a shitty area, excuse my language, where we were, so our radios were not working very well. So I was trying to find a place where I can transmit, and I had left my cell phones in my unit, which was down the road by where the crashes occurred. So I finally get through dispatch, advise them the suspect's down, not conscious, not breathing, get me AMS. So they finally hear me, they start rolling. I remember communicating to them, approximate age, because they were asking. I said 40 or 45, right around that age. And again, advise them not conscious, not breathing. After that, Grosvenor, Bukecki, Urquillo, Benway, and Sergeant Sablotny all kept rotating CPR on him. It was very immediate, and I'm very proud of all of them for doing that because everybody just jumped in. They didn't hesitate after we were obviously secure that he didn't have anything on him. So everybody jumped in, started doing cycling and breathing, and eventually EMS arrived. Chief Birch was the first one on scene from Raton EMS. He arrived on scene. Deputy Grosvenor briefed him real quick. They did put, if I remember correctly, 2 tourniquets on him. Grosvenor and Urquillo had an orange one. He put it on him, and the other one. After that, we briefed him. The ambulance showed up. I got irritated with the ambulance because he rolled up all over the shell casings. I think I told Burke something about that. Then he arrived, EMS arrived, started working on him. I kind of pulled my guys back, started talking to him, making sure they were doing. I did notice during it, Benway had a cut on his hand. I was asking, what happened? Did you get shot? I didn't know what happened. He's like, no, I fell back. I said, okay, good. It wasn't a bullet wound or anything like that. And then, so I gathered my deputies. We started moving to the north towards where my car was. After that, I made sure everybody was good. Talked to Boone. He said, just get everybody back to the office. Don't touch weapons. Don't manipulate them. Just leave them as they are. Get them back to the office, and we'll come and brief them, and we'll process them. I said, perfect. We left one of the units on scene. I think it was the one that Deputy Grosvenor was driving, because it was parked on the south side, and there was 1 or 2 rifles in there. I think I headed him to Smith, and he put him in there, or I told him to take him to your unit. Walking back, scene was secure. Boone told us what to do. We shut off our cams, and then we returned to the office. Boone told me to make sure that we just kind of keep everybody separated, so I kind of put everybody in their old offices. And that was the extent of it at that point.
Okay, you mentioned that while you were in Raton, there were several calls that came in.
Mm-hmm.
What information did you have? How many calls came in, and what information did you know responding to that call?
So the first 2, if I remember, the first one that I heard was of a male brandishing a firearm or pointing a firearm. And then the second one, I mean, you guys obviously have done this, hear that angst in dispatch, like she was escalated. She said, now we're getting second or third call. I don't remember exactly what she said, of a person pointing a firearm at them. So I was like, okay, now it's not good. Now this may legitimately be somebody that's doing it. So that's what I remember from that, vaguely. Yeah, and then unfortunately, I work in the office, so my radio doesn't sound really good, so I don't get all the traffic. But once I got in my car, I could hear it a little bit better. So.
Okay, so you knew that you were responding to someone that was armed?
Armed, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you feel responding to that call?
I mean, it's not the first time, so it was just, okay, let's make sure everybody's safe, make sure we get there, try to identify them, get as much information. Deputy Urquillo did a great job on the sheriff's side, communicating what was happening, where he was, so I was just trying to gather information, gather resources. Again, that's when I called Sablotny and said, hey, he's like, yeah, we just got this. So I think, if I remember correctly, he said that they were getting the same calls through your guys' dispatch. So it was kind of several calls that were coming through at the same time. So they were heading in that direction. Him and Benway were already heading in that direction. So we kind of, so allocating resources at that point, make sure everybody who was over there. We had pending calls in the valley. Unfortunately, we had 3 guys that day, and they were all on this. So I'm talking to dispatch saying, okay, just tell them to stand by until we get cleared. We'll send somebody. And I was about to send Deputy Grosvenor when the pursuit began, from what if I remember correctly. And he's like, well, they just, state police just passed me, so I'm going to jump in and follow. I said, okay, we'll figure it out later. We'll get to that other call. And that's kind of where it all transpired.
Okay, so the first time that you actually came in contact with the suspect and the vehicle was when state police had already pitted it.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So kind of go into that in a little more detail. As far as the scene, how are you feeling in that moment, especially because he wasn't complying to your guys' commands?
Right. So rolling up on the scene, like I said, it was just kind of I'm pretty sure that was Sergeant Sablotny that went and took him out and pushed him into the ditch. Said, okay, obviously this guy's not being compliant. Obviously he's armed. Not just handgun, I'm gonna grab my rifle. So I grabbed my rifle. At that point, it's trying to establish communication, obviously trying to talk to the guy. I could tell everybody else was pretty escalated at that point. So I tried to, I don't know if I was calm or sounded calm, but I was trying to be calm with the guy, try to get comms going with him. And he didn't care. He was kind of receptive, but still just not. So at that point, it was just kind of scene safety and preservation of life, obviously, with other people that were around. I didn't know if he still had the handgun. I remember I saw a sheath. So obviously, being focused on him, what his actions are, whatever he does, we had to make sure that we kept an eye on him. And we moved with him pretty well. I think there was nobody in possible any kind of crossfire or anything like that. So that was good. So obviously, preservation at that point, we want to try to, go through, use the least amount of force, obviously, to try to get him to comply. And I think, Sergeant Sablotny did that. We tried TASER, and obviously TASER was somewhat ineffective because he was still able to reach for a knife. So I think kind of just the gradual increase, I think we tried to do everything we could prior to it escalating to the point where he drew out his knife.
Absolutely. I know one of the deputies attempted to tased the suspect. And then, if I remember correctly, you said you were closing distance. What was your role in that moment? Were you going to attempt to apprehend him?
Yes.
Put him in?
Yeah, because we were saying handcuff, so we're going to, obviously, I don't know if somebody said handcuff, but that was my first thing. I mean, you have, again, 5 seconds. That cycle's still going, so I remember hearing the taser still click, click, click. So, so you start moving in, and then, it was just within a fraction of seconds, you hear knife, knife, and all of a sudden you hear rounds popping. So you just kind of, I kind of scooted out of the way, like I literally said, shit, am I going to get hit or what? So I kind of moved out of the way, and then I backed up, came back, and he was down. I started giving him commands again because I saw him moving around. So just kind of control the scene as best as I could at that point, and tried to see what we needed to do to render aid at the end of it.
Tell me about when you first saw the knife, when he armed himself with that knife. Was that when you were still, because you mentioned you could still hear the clicking of the taser? Do you recall if it was during that same time that it was?
You know what, I couldn't exactly know. There was just so many things kind of unfolding within that. I remember clearly seeing the knife as I was approaching. I'm like, wait a minute, and then knife, knife, boom, 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 heard the shots, and that's when I backed away. So I'd say it was probably an approximately 2 to 3 inch knife. Silver, that's all I remember. And like I told you guys, I remember hearing it fall because it was just a distinct clink as opposed to the rounds hitting the ground. So.
Okay. How many gunshots did you hear?
Oh gosh. I heard maybe between 9 and 10, maybe. It was just a rapid da-da-da-da, and then, in your head, you're not going to, obviously I heard it now in the video, it makes it a little more clear, but yeah, I would say about 9 or 10 shots, possibly. Oh yeah, and then after, I apologize, after we were walking away, that's when, because I just thought Q was the one that shot, but Keki's like, Sir, Lieutenant, I shot as well. I said, okay, you're fine, we'll figure it out. So that's what he told me. And he said he fired once.
Seeing that the suspect wasn't responding to your guys' commands, and seeing, the other sergeant and deputies, use the taser and non-lethal, and seeing that it had no effect, how did that make you feel in that moment? Was there a concern?
There was a concern, because obviously there was either, I don't know if there was an altered state on his behalf. I didn't know, because most people will, you have several guns pointed at you, they're gonna comply, or they're gonna react to it, or something. So it just didn't make sense to me why this guy was just insistent. And I know it's not related to this incident, however, I did have a prior contact with that suspect at our office one time.
Okay.
And I don't know too much about him. He was just very, you guys, kind of the same thing, like you guys don't have any authority, and he was trying to, I don't remember exactly if he was trying to bring in a knife on him to court. We don't allow knives, courts, obviously, the courts, knives or guns, and something along the lines of that. So it didn't make sense, because I'm like, dude, we're all pointing guns at you. Comply, let's just end this right now. So I don't know if there was an altered state of mind on his part. I don't know if he was on possible drugs, alcohol. I didn't know. I just, at the end of it, my concern was him possibly reaching down the road where we had people standing on that end, unguarded. I think Smith showed up a little bit after the shooting, and then he started blocking traffic. I moved one of my guys' units down there just to block traffic, but at that point, I didn't want him to keep walking, or we needed to stop it at that point before he found another vehicle or took a hostage. You just run everything through your mind. Like, what if this guy makes it all the way down there? Then we have a whole other situation. Somebody else is going to get hurt, or whatever the case may be.
Did the suspect make any other comments during that time that you recall?
Not off the top of my head. I just remember, that we're a gang. Did I say that? I don't know if you said that. Yeah. You guys are a gang. Yeah, something about Indian land. I remember this is Indian land. Or it was just not really. He just didn't feel like he had done anything wrong in a sense. So he didn't know why we were there, which again didn't make sense.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple. You may have said, did you recognize the guy at all while you had contact with him? Did you recognize him?
No, not at all. I knew I had seen him before. I just didn't remember when. And then after, obviously, I saw him down on the ground. I'm like, I remember him from the previous dealings. But and at that point too, he was compliant. He understood. He couldn't. Again, I don't remember if it was a knife or a gun or something he was arguing that he wanted to bring in.
Okay. At that point that you guys made contact with him, was he free to leave at any time?
No, not at that time, because we had enough information that obviously he was brandishing a firearm, one of the guy's units, backing into him. So at that point, we were going to try to detain him to the best of our ability.
In your perception, I'm going to take you back to the point where you were moving into apprehend him. About, to the best of your ability and your perception, how close were you to the subject?
Gosh, I'd say by the point where I heard the gunshots, maybe from me to you, around there. I just remember getting close, and I remember clearly, again, seeing the knife, and it just kind of unraveled from there. Obviously, I jumped back.
1 to 3 feet?
1 to 3 feet, yeah.
I think those are the only follow-up questions I had.
Do you have anything else that I didn't ask that you recall that's of importance for us to know?
No, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I think it's very basically how it all played out that day. Can't think of anything else that I might have forgotten. No.
We thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Coming in,
No problem.
stuff like that. If you have any other additional questions for us, feel free to give me a call, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time and for meeting with us.
No problem.
Is this an